Peace, y'all. What is good? Ephraim here, man. And today I came to talk to y'all about listening to your intuition, right? Listening to intuition. I feel this is so important. And I needed to touch on this, man, because how do I describe myself as someone as an intuitive person? And this is an intuitive channel, right? We just getting these messages and these downloads. In order to embody that, I feel like it's important that I explain to y'all just what intuition means to me and what even stillness looks like throughout that process. So one thing that I've been dealing with more throughout my intuitive process is being able to sit still, be in silence, and just listen to what's going on around me, what's going on in my life. And I gotta say, it's not always the easiest process for me. I don't know if a lot of people can relate to that, but being able to self-regulate, I found is a very important thing for me. It's a very important part of my process, an important step. And oftentimes it looks like setting up my environment accordingly. You know, we've mentioned some of this before, but knowing how I want my day to go ideally in mind, but not even just, our day to day, but at the end of the day, what is the end goal that I have in mind? Like, what are the things that I'm working towards? What do I want to accomplish? And this helps me focus more on going in that direction on my path, right? So that being said, I know today was even one of those days where it was a little tough for me to show up because I'm like, what do I really want to talk about? Like, what do I really have to talk about? But at the same time, just being willing to show up and do my best, I feel like that's what's really important. And then when it comes to, again, following my intuition, there might not be a whole bunch of things that needs to be expressed in a moment, right? And for instance, one of my favorite books is a book called Essentialism. And Essentialism, if you're familiar with, or even if you're not, is basically about the pursuit of less. A book by Greg McNone. I really like that author. He has a sequel called Effortless as well, which I'm very into. But the foundation of essentialism is knowing when can we do less? And it's like, how often in our lives do we get so overwhelmed with the monotony, like, of the day to day? This is my task. This is the goal that I need to accomplish again today. But the bigger picture of life is like, what type of life do we want to live? You know, what do we want to embody? And even if we have this path, like, how do we want to arrive along our journey? Like, if there is, even if we can say that there's a specific destination and that's maybe your end goal, right? That's what I'm thinking about. I want to accomplish. I want to be highly successful in this. I want to build a big billion-dollar business, or I want to be an extremely powerful speaker or amazing recording artist, right? With a bunch of sold out tours all across the globe. If that's the end goal, for me, it's been more so follow my intuition of, cool, that's great. But how do I want to arrive when I make it there? You feel me? And I think one of the messages that I do receive a lot too is like showing up empty. And I think that goes back to, again, giving your all in a sense, but also giving your best, really, because some days you might not have, let's say, quote unquote, all to give, right? You might know that, like when they say, my cup is empty, you know, you're not, if you're not coming from an overflow in your cup, you're not filling yourself up, you might not have everything to give to the world and to the people around you. And this is just something that I think about a lot more for myself, because even if I just flash back into, more recently in my life, in recent years, and what kind of pushed me to make this transition and end up where I'm at now, physically in my life, like being in Chicago and just moving forward. I just remember, and I don't even I don't even be wanting to get too deep into this, but I'll give some context, right? I know where I was at and how I was feeling in my own body and my experience. And I feel like at some point I wasn't really listening to my intuition. I wasn't really listening to the messages that myself was giving myself. You feel me? Like that I was giving myself. That we talk about that voice inside your head, right? It's funny because I share with some people, and I want to share with y'all, like one of my favorite books I just finished, actually favorite audiobooks I've listened to, is by 2 Chainz, and it's called The Voice Inside My Head Is God, right? And it's like that concept is amazing, and it's phenomenal to me, and I think it's something a lot of people can relate to nowadays when we talk about the God within, right? That God consciousness, and knowing that, yeah, we are part of God, we are part of creation, and we always have access to that. It's not something outside of us. You feel me? So that being said, he would always mention throughout the chapters, he'd be like, something told me I shouldn't bring that. I shouldn't bring this pack to school today. Something told me I shouldn't go down this alleyway. Like, it's just mad funny hearing 2 Chainz talk about, the experiences in his life, a wealth of experiences, right? Especially like growing up in the South and in the streets, and yeah, also being an athlete and everything. But I really like that because it's made me stop and think for myself, like, what is driving me? Like, what is the message that is being told to me, right? That I'm telling myself, or that I hear on a day-to-day basis. And it's up to me if I'm gonna listen to that voice in my head, right? Like, for instance, today, I know I had big goals. I wanted to get out for the sales roles that I'm in, because I finally got my first couple commissions, and I'm like, yo, that's looking nice. We need to keep this up with Ion Solar and knocking on doors and stuff. And I'm like, all right, I want to get out. I'm talking to a whole bunch of people on the team, and they're encouraging me. They're like, hey, yeah, we can meet, do what you can on these days. And I had, even yesterday, family reunion I wanted to go to, but I just wasn't able to do it all. And I just want to emphasize this with you guys, because oftentimes, for me, I have big goals and aspirations. I'm expecting that if you're seeing this video, you're on this channel, you're probably a similar type of person, right? How often do we have so many things we want to do, but like we shared before on the channel and in previous videos, we want to do the first things first, right? And it doesn't have to be hard, but knowing what our priorities are, along with just our values, what do we really value as a person? I feel like this is the whole internal guidance of, okay, you know what, I should make this decision. And I feel like it's so easy to put off or prioritize things, for me, in my experience. And I'm learning about this ADHDer mindset, because I'm just like, it's so easy to go from thing to thing to thing, just almost in a pursuit of creativity, quite honestly, like just being creative. And I feel like that's what it is, like having a creative mind. It just works differently, and we just pull all these different connections, right, throughout the universe, and just in our experience. But when I find myself getting overwhelmed, overstimulated, it's not always a bad thing because it's great to get out of my comfort zone. But there will be days when, and not even just days, but just moments where I'm just like, you know what? It's okay. I see what you're doing, and I know we're going for. But I want to use this analogy. Just like they say, Rome wasn't built in a day, right? Basically, like I don't have to do everything at once. And this is as much as I'm sharing this with y'all, this is really for myself to be transparent and also accountable and just accepting, being accepting at peace, to give grace, to be like, as much as I want to, the way my mind works, I'm a Virgo moon too, y'all. I know, I talk about I'm super sad, but look, I be feeling like Kobe, like mama mentality, because I really be like, sometimes it just drives me into this all or nothing personality and energy. And yeah, I just say personality because it feels like a part of who I am, to just be wanting to be like, yeah, let's just do everything like now. Let's do it all now. And I think that's there's a word, I don't know if it's called destination fatigue, but I know I've even heard conversations talking about it specifically for men, black men especially, just thinking about we get so caught up on that end goal, as much as, I've been talking about it, to where we're like, we just want to be there immediately. But in reality, going through life's experiences, taking time for all the moments and prioritizing, like, okay, what can I do today? What is most important is just as necessary. And then being still in between those moments, like transitioning, that is just as important. And like, I think I'm not gonna say it's hard, right? Let me hold myself accountable, excuse me, because I don't want to say it's not hard, but what can be a challenge at times, right? Especially if I allow it to be for myself, and maybe for many of us, it can be when we don't give ourselves that space to actually transition, right? And I feel like that's when our intuition starts telling us, like, okay, in the back of our minds, right? Even if think about it, like our body starts responding a certain way. If you just tense up all the time, if we're always walking day to day, like tense or just excessively tired, like there's sometimes where I really have to sleep. And I almost be forcing myself to sleep because I'll wake up and I'll get out the bed and I'll just be so ready to do X, Y, Z. And I've been really big on my 8 hours because I'm just learning, like, that sleep is very important in like dealing with stress, transmuting that in the body, and to have a high quality of life and like stay healthy. Sleep is extremely underrated. I know there's a lot of propaganda from other people, maybe other channels that are like, forget sleep and, you only 5 hours, da da da. And it's like, it's cool, but like over a prolonged time, no. And then when I started really learning and getting into like just communities and information from people who are actually successful, and a lot of wealthy people do not sacrifice sleep, right? So just like we say, right? Health is wealth. And it's a blessing to even be alive and be in a healthy place, because you can have all the money in the world, but as soon as your health is messed up, then you're like, oh, well, you're ready to give everything to get your health back, right? So even if we can sit still and be just grateful to be like, you know what, I'm extremely healthy right now, and that's like all the wealth I need in this moment. It just, it just makes sense. It's a great place to reflect from. So, given all of this, right? Let me see. I have a few more things for y'all, but I think that's really the main point. Even, oh yeah, I even went to a show yesterday. I got to meet some amazing poets, musician. It was like a performing musician at the end that was featured, and it was really dope. And I feel like that's just another part of me knowing the goal that I have in mind, knowing the community that I want to build and engage with. Because I've went to like other spaces since I've been here, and it's sometimes, if you ever just walk into a room and you just feel it. Like for me, my nervous system, and it could be, yeah, it's framed from previous experiences, maybe that we've had with certain cultures, certain demographics of people, and it's not being prejudiced. It's just in hindsight and based upon my experiences, right? This is what is comfortable for me, right? This is what I like. This is my preference. And even at times, it's not even, my thing is that being a very open, divergent person, like I'll go into all types of communities, but it's just like, what do I want right now? Because some days I might like, oh, I'm really into this rock music and I want to get to this. But then other times, if I know there's something that I need to express and write, more recently I've been like internal and also like a lot more vulnerable, and I've been getting better with my writing. I've been working on my writing a lot, and so I'm like, I want to go to these poetry spaces. And I know even when I started and the community that I started with, like my journey as a poet, like and writer, it was very, very immersive, very home-like and welcoming, right? And so whenever I found those poetry spaces, and it just felt like community to me, and it was something that I could relate to within my own culture, that's what made me really want to open up and express, because I was like, oh, there's other people who can relate to the experiences that I've had. And me just thinking that, now that it just becomes an intuitive thought. So it's just like, okay, let me go to this space. Let me see what I can find. And sure enough, when I actually did, I'm just being intentional because I can do my research. And again, the essentials, like there's a million places I can go. But when I am in tune with myself and I know what I'm looking for, I'm like, no, this is what I'm doing. And I feel like that's the thing when people ask me, they're like, oh, or they comment, they're like, you're always finding the spaces, you know where to go. And it's like, bro, I just listen to myself. Like, I know what I like, I know what I think is dope. And I feel like for other people, if you know what you like, how often do you ignore your own intuition and you're not listening? Like if you're just, and I'm not saying that to you, but I'm just saying there's possibilities when people do that, right? How often does that happen? Where, you hear a thought inside your head or just, in your soul, and you're just like, this is, I would really like that. I would like to find something like this. I would like to do that. I would like to take a leap of faith and experience that opportunity. But how often do we quiet that voice, or we try and drown it out with a bunch of noise in our life? We just put a bunch of extras. We keep consuming. We keep taking in a whole bunch of other things, people, places, and things that don't really align with what we actually want to see in our life. And then it becomes cloudy, right? It's no clarity. It becomes chaotic and dysfunctional because there's just so much clutter. And especially nowadays when we live in an information age, of course there's artificial intelligence, but before that, everybody is just so much content, information. So it only accelerates the idea that there's so much going on, but what do I actually want? What do I want to see? What do I want to consume? What do I want to listen to? And so for me, taking time to do that, taking time to sit still, when I do it, it's just like, okay, you know what? This is what I should be doing. I should be going in this direction. And I'm grateful that every time that I'm listening to it, even when I just like, I allow things to play out still, I can just reflect and be like, oh yeah, I was right about that situation. Like, yeah, this happened the way that I thought. And especially when we think about, I'll say this, when dealing with other people, consider that everybody is communicating constantly. Even in this selling position, it's crazy that I was listening to this training video and they're like, everyone is constantly selling something. And we don't think about it as selling, but right, if you're an artist, you go to an open mic, you go to a space of new people, subconsciously in your mind, whether you think it out loud or not, you're selling the idea of like, oh, I'm a great artist, I make great music, somebody's gonna relate to it, or it's gonna be valuable to somebody, right? Somebody's gonna like it because the song is dope. You're now going on stage and you're performing, and it becomes, I want to say your job, because I feel like that's what it is as an artist, but even if it's not your job, even if it's a hobby for you, that becomes your subconscious objective, because you're projecting that out into everyone around you in the room. You're literally performing like you're a joker or a jester or something. And I'm saying this as a person who does music. But I'm just like, that's what it is when people get up and they're passionate and they're performative of like, you want to make somebody feel something, right? So when I think about that and communication being an art, poetry, of course, music, whatever, but just having a conversation, even if I have a conversation with you and I want to get to know you, I'm now selling myself. And there's a certain level of validation that might come within that conversation. Like for me, of course, it starts by like validating myself. But then if I'm looking to connect with you, there might be some level of validation that I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm a musician too. You're a musician. Like, let's do create something together. And so when I think about that and I listen to other people and a lot of other people, when I went out, right, I was just thinking about, it's a great habit to listen more than we speak, right? And you know what they say, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. So we should listen twice as much as we speak. And I just realized it's a high level characteristic and trait. You think about friend groups, society, people always value someone who listens, and they're like, oh, they're quiet. Think about that. Like, everybody wants to be around a quiet person because then they can just talk to them and they can say everything about themselves and that quiet person is going to listen. And it happens, right? But if you think about the reason why, it just goes back to, again, a lot of people are looking for some sense of connection, approval, acceptance, validation. So, right, when people are looking for these things, it's very easy to just be a present and empathetic person and just hear them out. And when you do that, naturally people are more receptive of you. Like, people are much more open, and they're like, oh, they were willing to understand me first. They didn't come to me trying to be understood. They just wanted to hear more about me and my story and what I do. They ask questions, they're engaging, right? Things like that. It's helpful because in doing that and listening and being more still, I just realized everyone, again, subconsciously, they're communicating exactly what they want, exactly how they feel, and they're telling you a lot about themselves just subconsciously throughout the conversation. So they're selling you on the idea of them, and they're telling you what does work from them or does work for them, what hasn't worked for them, their boundaries that they just recently established, and why they didn't like their ex or whatever it is. They're telling you that. So it's like our job being to listen, if we want to make valuable connections, if we want to deeper understand people. That's what that is. And then also, though, with that comes the other side of, for ourselves, we also have the ability to just, make a judgment, meaning like we use our discernment. And we get to decide, oh, is this somebody I want to engage with, right? Is this somebody, even if from the past, that I want in my life in this present moment, based off of what they're communicating to us and the information, the data that we're receiving. So I feel like all that comes down to being able to listen to intuition. And yeah, just doing that, life for me, it just becomes so much easier, because now I get to know, like, oh yeah, how does my body feel? How does my nervous system feel? Do I feel like this person is dysregulated? Like, do I want to engage with this dysregulation? My intuition starts foreshadowing and starts planning ahead to be like, yeah, if I entertain this conversation, this person might do this, or they might start to, it's like, say if I just met them, they're just asking me for things. They might keep asking me for things. And some people are, well, I say users, abusers. I don't like to label people, but it's like some people will exhibit these habits. But then some people, I was also gonna say, like, are enablers, and like some people have enabling habits. So let's use it like that. Like, some people might have more narcissistic tendencies. And for me, I've just realistically been a person, like, for one, I think as a person, it's removing the good and bad, like, of, we all have some tendency of narcissism at a level of, like, just what it is, of we're focused on ourself and our experience, right? Which is not necessarily a bad thing. So that being said, like, I've come across plenty of people, and even if it's like family, it's like confirmation, that are more in a narcissistic train of thought or just pattern of behavior. Cool, I just know that now, right? And I can use my intuition to navigate this relationship. It doesn't mean that I have a problem with them, because that's their life. That's what they're choosing to do. That's how they show up. Some people might be more supportive and empathetic, and even then, I'll be mindful of that. But just knowing, how does this feel, and you can really observe a person's behavior and get to know their intentions. So it's like, judging somebody by their character and their actions and how they show up, besides just what they say physically. Like, read the room, feel the vibration, all the things, just be open and receptive in that moment. I feel like that's how we listen. I know that was more about other people, but again, going back to self is just knowing in this life, what do I want for me, has been extremely important. And when I get to refocus and think about my goals that I'm really starting to achieve, it also allows for me to give myself grace and be patient and be like, what, I'm doing a good job. And it's like, oftentimes we probably don't do that enough. But yeah, I'm doing a great job. So thank you guys for listening. And I'm expecting that you continue to listen and listen to yourself. Most importantly, don't just take my word for it. Everything I say with a grain of salt, because there'd be things that I say and later I'd be like, oh, well, nah, I was kind of tripping. Like, I felt that way in the moment, but there's more to it, So rather than just taking everyone else's word for it, it's like, listen to that voice within, the voice in your head. And not the one that's just always coming out in certain situations, right? The lust or the envy, deceit, whatever it is, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, when you're really still, when you're at peace with yourself, not when you're just in a overstimulated situation or heightened experience. It's like, no, when I'm here by myself and I wake up in the morning, I start my day, or late at night, I'm reflecting, like, how do I actually feel about my life and what's going on? It's very important to take time to be still and really self-regulate. And yeah, just know that you're the first and primary person that you can trust. So until next time, I appreciate y'all, man. Peace.